Hiya, I'm a Zamen, and Persona 3 Reload's DLC Episode Aegis will soon release, and it's just the answer from the original FES release back in 2006. Which I am very excited for because I think the answer is a wonderful and necessary part of the Persona 3 experience. Much of that experience comes from the characters, with one in particular being crucially vital to the answer story, that character being Yukari Takeba. So I've been in the Persona, or more accurately Mega 10 fandom for at least 6 years at this point, and from what I've seen, Yukari has always been a very polarizing character in the fandom, with a select majority absolutely despising her, calling her several very not nice names, and deem that she is very poorly and inconsistently written. Those people are just wrong. Yukari is an excellent character, and her actions throughout the events of Persona 3 and The Answer are very consistent and in line with who she is. It just happens to be a very ugly and messy situation she finds herself in. Naturally, this video will contain heavy spoilers for both Persona 3, Persona 3 Reload, and The Answer, and Episode Aegis. And I guess chuck in P3P in there too. Also, yeah, I'll be saying The Answer when referring to Persona 3's Epilogue because I have no idea if Episode Aegis will alter its events, as it has not come out yet as of the making of this video. To begin, let's answer this question. Who is Yukari Takeba? She is the Lover's Arcana and the resident Harmacist of 3's. As a person, she's sarcastic, generally cheery, and prone to easy frustration. However, that's Yukari's outer shell. That's who she presents herself as. Beyond that shell, Yukari is lonely, and someone who longs for connection despite fearing it. Combine that with an insecurity that is shown through her projecting her anger onto others for seemingly no reason, and you find yourself with a character who's messy, flawed, frustrating, but most importantly, very human. Cause humans, you know, those featherless bipeds who walk on two legs, they oftentimes do stupid things that are hard to understand and seemingly irrational. And that defines Yukari in The Answer, where she is low-key the antagonist, and the character who I sympathize with the most throughout it. So let's dive into it by first speeding through Persona 3, where all you gotta know is this. Emo kid shows up, shoots himself, doesn't die, still gets a ghost though, makes some coworkers, makes friends, kills a bunch of Arcana, pets Koru Maru. Loses some guy he barely knew, kills the rest of the Arcana, makes his coworkers his friends, learns the meaning of life, fights death, loses, but then still secures the W, as a sick rap makes him hit the gritty and and then, when all is said and done, he makes his amends, says his goodbyes, fulfills his promise, and peacefully passes away with a smile on his face, acknowledging the impact he's had on the world around him, being grateful for the life he was given, a life he was more than willing to give up for the sake of others. His death leads us to The Answer, where his co-workers turned friends find themselves trapped in a strange dimension that they must brave through, while confronting their grief over his death, which in turn causes them to learn about the ugly side beneath each of them, while also learning about the true faith of our deceased, blue-haired boy. And this story is like 3 hours tops, but we get 10 hours of what I think is some honestly fun dungeon crawling and battles. However, we are not here to discuss my controversial Persona politics, such as ahem, Persona 3 is at its best with non-controllable party members. I will die on this hill. Ahem. Yukari, she has a really bad attitude and is really quite very abrasive throughout all of The Answer, which makes me quite sure that that's the main cause for why some not-so-fine folks might dislike her. Because for starters, The Answer begins with 3's trying to have a small ceremony to formally disband 3's, but Yukari doesn't attend. In fact, she's just very dismissive of the fact that they're expecting her to show up. When she does show up, Yukari still doesn't want to be there, and is the most sick of the magic space-time warping dimension nonsense. She hates it and makes it very apparent many times. However, it's deeper than that. It goes beyond mere annoyance. After everything she went through in the events of Persona 3, Yukari had resolved to look forward towards the future and not look back. But with the answer literally dragging her back into fighting with her persona, it's very hard to not look back. It makes Yukari feel like she can't live up to what she resolved to do, despite the fact that she has no control over the current situation. And this idea, this way of living that Yukari has decided to follow stems from an unhealthy view Yukari has of herself. Because as the answer goes on, it becomes apparent that Yukari's resolve of never looking back is toxic. It's a way for Yukari to ignore the flaws and the weaknesses she had in the past, because she wants to never acknowledge that they ever existed. If she does acknowledge them, then it becomes real, and to her, it means that any supposed growth she has had since then has been a waste of time. So in short, there is no point to bringing up the past to Yukari. Look only to the future. The past might as well not even exist. So when Yukari has to literally rewatch her past, there's a bit of an odd reaction, or I guess lack of a reaction. The flashback she sees is just of her sitting in the hall of her dorm building, kind of in a daze, lamenting how it's been over 4 years of living away from her mother, because time is just passing so quickly. For the most part, she's quiet, antisocial, and a bit introspective, wondering if she should give up on clearing her dead father's name. However, she gains a surge of emotion and energy the moment she receives a letter from her deceased father. Wait, and no, the dad doesn't come back. No, he's not just back from the grave. No, that's not what, that didn't happen. No, he had sent her a letter in advance. 10 years ago, he sent her a letter that arrives only now on the anniversary of it. And that brings the memory to a close. And Yukari's reaction to this memory is nothing. I know that memory sounded a little bit boring and kind of dry, but Yukari's reaction of thinking that it's not a big deal is pretty weird, because that moment is a pretty big deal. The letter she received there is the basis for Yukari's entire motivation throughout the first chunk of Persona 3's story. The letter from her father is what gives her the drive to join 3's in order to find out what happened to her father. By ignoring this memory, Yukari is neglecting her own growth, because she has to keep looking only towards the future. You can't think of the past at all. While she doesn't elaborate on the memory, she does provide some explanation for her current mentality by showing a hint of vulnerability, and admitting that she just isn't sure she's actually moving forward. She wants something. She doesn't know what, but Yukari wants some kind of sign or proof that she's able to keep moving forward, because she made a promise. A promise to the blue-haired boy. A promise that she just can't keep. Later on, after 3's have tracked down and defeated the shadow/ghost thing that's the manifestation of their grief over the blue-haired boy's death, the climax occurs. 3's is given a way to go back in time and potentially undo the death of the protagonist through these keys. These keys basically let them go back in time so long as all of them are in agreement. Having access to this possibility, they debate what to do, with characters like Ken and Akihiko not wanting to undo his death despite their grief, because they acknowledge that the blue-haired boy gave up his life to save all of 3's, so it would be wrong to undo all of his hard work, because as Akihiko says, even if it hurts, they have to accept it and deal with the present. But Yukari thinks differently and reveals herself to be a bit of a hypocrite, because she wants to go back and undo his hard work. She wants to save the blue-haired boy. Yukari admits that after he saved all of them, she kept telling herself to keep looking forward. But she hasn't been able to do that. She's been thinking of his death, of the past, the entire time. She's been stagnant, throwing herself into cram school that prevents herself from flourishing and living the life that the blue-haired boy saved. And in this scene, Yukari brings out her worst traits as she literally starts fights with all the remaining guys in 3's. Why'd I word it that way? You see, I have a sneaking suspicion that this might be a cause for all the hate she receives in the answer. But she is kind of the worst here, because she insults Akihiko and Ken for coping with their grief in a healthy way. And, Akihiko and Ken are both orphans. Akihiko lost his parents, and his little sister, and his lifelong best friend, who he watched die while holding him in his arms. Ken watched his mom die, brutally, and then watched his mother's killer die, but he cared about that guy and was deeply impacted by it. Then Yukari calls Junpei a scared coward, because he brings up how if they do undo the blue-haired boy's death, then it could quite literally kill every single person on the planet. It's a pretty big risk if they tried it. I should also mention that Junpei literally watched his girlfriend die in front of him after she gave up her life in exchange for his. Then from her death, Junpei accepted it and gained a new resolve to keep moving forward. Which might sound familiar because that is literally the struggle Yukari is going through. Yukari insults the 3 characters who have experienced tragic, traumatic loss and rejects any insight and understanding they offer her. It's annoying and a bit infuriating, but it's understandable because here's a little known secret about Yukari. I don't know if you've heard, but Yukari is not Junpei, Ken, or Akihiko. She's Yukari, a character with her own personality and experiences that differentiate her from those 3. It doesn't matter that those 3 have already experienced death. Hell, the same is even true for Mitsuru, who watched her dad die in front of her and gained the resolve to keep moving forward after a bout of depression. That doesn't matter, because Yukari hasn't experienced anything like it. Yes, her father is dead, but he died under mysterious circumstances, away from Yukari. Yukari for over a decade had no idea what happened or what caused his death. She had no closure. Now, with the blue-haired boy's death, she still has no closure, so she lashes out. She's the only one who doesn't know how to process this because she's just a high school girl. And because of that, she could act stupid, be irrational, and logistically, I know that saving the blue-haired boy is a bad idea. Killing everyone on the planet is pretty cringe. But I'm right there with Yukari. I haven't experienced true loss, but I want to bring him back. It makes me actively sad he's dead. Like Yukari, he had a profound and genuinely life-saving impact on me. I know it's wrong that saving him would defeat the whole purpose of his story, undo his growth, my growth, but come on! He deserves a happier ending after all he went through. Back to Yukari in the answer. She stands as the only person who wants to bring him back. Yukari declares that 3's is never going to reach a conclusion through words, so they have to throw hands instead. Yeah, she challenges everyone in 3's to a fight. Winner decides what they do. Oh, and then she insults Aigis because Aigis doesn't know what to do. When she insults Aigis, we get to see her jealousy and envy on full display, traits that were so apparent in Persona 3 with Mitsuru. Yukari aggressively accuses Aigis of running away, bringing up how during his funeral, she didn't show up. Yukari rants about how Aigis got to be with the blue-haired boy in his last moments. She rants about how Aigis heard his last words, how Aigis made a promise to him before he died, how Aigis got to inherit his special power. It's unfair. And with all of that, Yukari refuses to lose to Aigis, because, obviously, she's jealous. She wants to be in place of Aigis and resents that for the second time someone close to her has died without her being present or aware of it, unable to make any amends or express gratitude towards them before they're gone. 'Cause remember, Yukari's memories of everything the blue-haired boy did were gone, just like all of C's except for Aigis until March 5th, the day the blue-haired boy shut his eyes. When she did regain her memories, her and C's ran from their graduation ceremony to go meet him. And, if we go by the original Persona 3's version of March 5th, the best version, then we see that the blue-haired boy basically died before seeing or speaking to any of his friends. He shut his eyes for the final time as he heard their voices calling out to him. He went to sleep then and there, only to die the next day, never waking up. Yukari never got closure. She wants to avoid ever needing to get closure. So she throws hands. She gives it everything she's got, but she loses. Aigis beats her because Yukari never had a chance of winning. Come on, Aigis is a literal super fighting, killing robot. Yukari has a bow. Even when she loses, Yukari fruitlessly tries to take the key that can take them back in time. However, even if she did take the key, she still wouldn't be able to use it. She can't do anything. There's nothing under her control anymore. She can't influence anything. And she can't control herself anymore, and finally crumples, falling to her knees in a state of weakness.
I want to see him. I don't care about anything else. I just want to see him again.
After he died, Yukari held his cold hand and promised that she would try to change the world so people would stop wishing for the fall, an attempt at a selfless wish. But that's not who Yukari is. Inspiring change on a worldwide scale isn't something she can do, and it's something that she doesn't have true interest in. What Yukari wants is just to see him again, a selfish wish. Yukari tried to only look to the future and disregard the past, but as I've made clear, that's not what she's doing. It's a bit hypocritical, but she was always looking to the past. Mitsuru says it best when she states that
there's no way to truly put the past behind you. In the end, you only succeed in running from it.
Because there is no way to fully put the past behind her or look beyond it. The past informs all of our conscious choices. For as long as Yukari keeps running from the past, refusing to face it and accept it, her wounds and grief will never heal. Her grief throughout this whole ordeal is festering, causing her to lash out. Even now, after showing weakness, she still lashes out at Mitsuru, saying this.
So if I keep facing it, someday everything will be okay? Eventually I'll forget all about him, or stop caring? Like that's ever gonna happen. No one knows that better than us.
To which Mitsuru just comforts her and reminds her that she's not alone, which is exactly what Yukari did for Mitsuru when her dad died. Finally, Yukari breaks down and weeps. She sobs, letting her emotions run free, instead of trying to control and restrain them. Following that, the rest of the answer occurs. The blue-haired boy's transformation into Dorkun occurs, Ariba shows up, big fight, they win, and in the aftermath, Yukari apologizes to Aigis, like a mature person should. She admits that she was jealous, and she finally comes to grips with the fact that the blue-haired boy's death was his own choice. He chose to do it, and she needs to respect him for what he did. Though it hurts that he's gone, she needs to learn to live with it, rather than pretending it doesn't exist. When the ending to the answer occurs, C's is freed with a renewed sense of purpose. Aigis completes her character arc, and right before the credits roll, Yukari asks if Aigis wants to be her roommate, and the two affirm that they are friends. Both step into the sunlight, ready to embrace the future, while carrying the weight of the past in their hearts.
I mean, you need one, right? But hey, no need to be so formal. We are friends, aren't we? Yeah, you're right.
So the answer is messy. It ain't perfect, but I very much do enjoy it. A large part of it comes from Yukari, who is the real main antagonist for most of its duration. She constantly downplays everything they do, is a nuisance, and is the cause for the Colosseum Purgatorium, or whatever it's called. Erebus is just the final boss and a big monster. Truthfully, we really didn't need to fight it. But Yukari drives the main character conflict. Yukari forces Aigis to confront her desires and what she wants as a human being. And I'm not even very biased towards this. Like, Yukari is not my favorite character in P3. She doesn't even crack the top 10. She's just well written throughout the answer. For as stupid as it might sound, she's consistently inconsistent in a way that makes sense. Everything she does is in line with her character from Persona 3. It's frustrating to see her hurl abuse at the three people who have experienced the most loss, but it's supposed to be. Yukari is flawed, she's the antagonist, and she's suffering, just like Aigis. Aigis is struggling to find her purpose after the death of the blue-haired boy. She doesn't know where to go or how to compose herself, because she literally swore that her purpose in life was to protect the blue-haired boy. But he's dead. What's left for her? She's stuck looking at the past without confronting it, just like Yukari. While Aigis retreats into herself and denies her humanity, Yukari lashes out and pushes away the comfort of others. One isolates themselves through silence, the other isolates themselves through words. That's quite a bit. Quite a lot. I had a bit to say on this. Also, the reason why I picked Blue-Haired Boy for this video is that there's just something that sounds so magical about Blue-Haired Boy. I don't know, it just sounds magical. I like it. And that will wrap up this video. Listen, I love Persona 3, and I like the answer for what it represents and how it tackles the death of the hero. Well, the death of you, the player. This topic and idea was actually approached with a little more depth in my interview with Leovoid, so you can check out that video if it interests you. It's a bit long though. But Persona 3 is magical, and while Reload is able to recapture some of that magic and make some new magic, it just doesn't have the same feel and earnesty as the original. Plus, it's way too easy, gameplay suffered so hard. The story and message is still mostly intact, but I do have a few strong opinions on March 5th. However, I'll be saving those for another video I'm cooking on right now, and instead just say that I'm really looking forward to episode Aigis. The soundtrack especially is gonna slap so hard, and I hope that the blue-haired boy, Makoto Yuki, Minato Arisato, Dorkun, whatever you call him, I really hope he stays dead. It'd be denying my growth if he came back, and living is harder than dying. Anyway, I have been a Zamen, and thank you very much for watching this video. So consider sticking around if you don't hate my voice. My sole goal here is to improve. Goodbye.